Simplified Chaos, episode 79.
Life is beautiful and full of chaos.
And it can get slightly out of hand if that shit's not tamed.
We're here to share how to simplify the little things to help you lead a more intentional life.
This is Simplified Chaos.
Hey, wonderful friends. Welcome to Simplified Chaos. This is Jillian, one of your hosts, and I'm with my co-host and husband, Nicholas.
What's going on, folks? Hope you all are having a wonderful week. We've got another great episode here for you today. Jilly, what are we diving into?
This episode is all about our first date night since quarantine started.
Yeah. We really rediscovered the importance of date night for us, and we wanted to share it with you all. So this is going to be a great episode, and if you want to listen to our first date night episode, you're going to have to check that one out too. We'll put that in the show notes and link it. But before we dive into today's topic, as always, we want to show a little gratitude. So Jilly, what are you grateful for this week?
I am grateful for our roommates. Hashtag co-living.
You took mine.
Randy and Mark.
Perfect segue into this episode.
My reason might be different.
Okay.
I am grateful for them because they are open to living with us, which means we get to see their son, my nephew, Reese, grow, change, and develop, and I get some alone time with him. And I didn't even tell you, but so Reese is 9 months now? He took his first couple steps downstairs.
What?
Yeah. It was
I did not know that.
It's just like all of the same feelings I
had.
He's
putting it together. I know that, but...
Oh my God. But it was so magical watching Lucille
do
that and
like
now
3?
watching Reese
2?
do that. Can I just finish my reflection?
Sorry.
You were totally interrupting my gratitude segment.
I'm excited.
He took like 3.
Okay.
3 to 4. But now I don't even remember what I was going to say.
Sorry. I was excited.
I know. That's what I mean. Like the feels that I had when Lucille was changing and developing and growing, I get the same warm, tingly feelings watching Reese go through the same changes. And it just warms my heart that we get to be around that and see him grow and change and develop, and then just see Randy and Mark parent and become just amazing mom and dad. And it's humbling. I'm just glad they're open to living with us, and so far it's working.
It's definitely working. Yeah.
Enjoy it until it doesn't.
Absolutely. And we did an episode on that too about co-living, so you're going to want to check that one out. We'll put both of those episodes in the show notes. But yeah, no, I'm also grateful for your sister and my future brother-in-law. Without them, we wouldn't have been able to have our first date night since the whole COVID thing. And we were trying to pinpoint when our first date night was, and we were thinking it was probably sometime in February. So it's been quite a long time for us.
3 to 4 months.
Yeah. But, they stepped up and were willing to watch Lucille for the evening. So it was perfect. We went to one of our favorite places and had a couple hours out. But, big thank you to them for stepping up and watching Lucille so we can go out and rediscover the importance of date night.
For real. We had a lot of great reflections, and the whole time we're like at date night, not the whole time, but we were just saying like, what are we going to podcast about this week? And because we were having all these revelations and just, we got a lot of great conversation in. We're like, we need to talk about this. Like, this is juicy. This is good stuff. So we had a lot of reflections of why we value getting out of the house with each other by ourselves so freaking much.
I think it was very helpful because usually during our date nights is when we have our best ideas for the podcast. And I'm not saying that the ideas that we've had during COVID weren't good ideas, but I think it took a lot more work for us to do that, where this was something that came up very organically, which typically comes up very organically in our date nights. One of the things that we do talk about is this podcast, and, Jill and I always are kind of week to week with this thing. You know, we don't plan really out too far in advance, although we came up with 3 really good episode topics sitting down at dinner.
I forgot them already.
Yeah, well, that's why I pulled out the old phone and wrote them down. But, you know, it was just like one of those things where the juices were flowing, the cocktails were flowing. That certainly helps.
Yes.
But the juices were flowing. And again, it was just like one of those things, you know, well, what do we want to talk about? And we just kind of talking and just like, as we're going through the meal, it's like, you know what, this is really great. You know, let's talk about the rediscovering date night, because we haven't had one in such a long time. Yeah.
And it's not that we haven't been having moments of alone time throughout the day. Like, we go on a car rides, and sometimes Lucille's not with us, and we have some moments of time, but we kind of discovered that even though we have these moments of alone time in the house, it's usually in the middle of a work day.
Yeah.
Or in the middle of a project, or there's just something going on during the week that we can't completely like let go and just be really open and have that clear mind and space to like create and think. So it's almost like it's structured in there. So we have moments of alone time, and it's great, but it doesn't fill our cup up all the way when it comes to like really connecting. I love that we take moments and see each other throughout the day. Like, I'll give you a compliment and you smack my butt, or I'll give you a kiss, or
I tap it. I don't smack it.
Bring you breakfast. And I love that we have these small moments to connect, because they are so needed since we haven't had any date nights out. But I really forgot why we enjoyed going out of the house alone so much. And the first thing was just because it's crazy. I think the first thing we talked about, we sound really cheesy, but we talked about our goals in life.
Yeah. I mean, that tends to come up all the time when we're out on a date night, and you're very good about being mindful about asking me how things are going, and, you know, if there's anything that needs to change or anything like that. But, you know, I do remember, like, when we were going out on date nights consistently, like, that's something that came up all the time, which is great. I mean, it's definitely important to talk about that. And just with even the coffee dates that we've been doing, where we're in the car for an hour, like you said, it tends to be, we're coming off of work, and you know, we're kind of talking about what's going on during our day, what's going on with Lucille. But you know, these goals conversations don't really come up. So yeah. That was a huge thing that we were talking about. Yeah,
and I guess, you know, when you're in the home with your partner having these moments of time together, it's great, but you're on the ground floor. When we get out of the house, it's like we get out on the balcony and we can see ourselves at an aerial view, as I like to call it, and then we can really get a big picture of, okay, here's where we are. Okay, just checking in, like, okay, what do we value in life? Okay, what are we doing to make sure we're aligning to those goals? And I know I sound really professional here saying all this stuff, but we never used to talk like that until we started goal planning, and then things started falling so much more in place. Like, I feel like we really simplified what we want out of life by just talking about what we value in life and what are we doing to get there and to make it happen as much as possible. And that's what we connected about. We were like, all right, let's talk about our travel plans or non-travel plans.
Yeah.
You know, let's talk about Lucille, because obviously family's important.
I was going to say that I think that was a big part of the conversation, was talking about how we want to raise Lucille. And, you know, you and I keep going back and forth with the whole homeschool thing. Does she go to public school? And we're not going to know that answer until we get closer to her schooling age anyway. But, you know, it's something that we're being very thoughtful about now. And we both have, you know, the pros and cons of doing it one way over another. Obviously, you're a school teacher, and so you know what it's like in the public school system. But, I mean, that was a big part of the conversations, not only our personal goals, our couple goals, but it's our goal as parents raising this beautiful young lady and trying to do what's best for her. So, you know, I'm glad we had a chance to have that conversation.
And I am just appreciative that we are open to like ping pong and agree or disagree, because, you know, right now there's just so many unknowns. Like,
oh my goodness,
I have a feeling there's going to be a shift in education because of everything that's happening, but I'm not sure what that shift is going to look like. But I'm hopeful. I really am hopeful. And, but yeah, no, we got to talk about, more serious stuff like Lucille's future. And sometimes I don't like to talk about it too often, but I like just touching base with how are we feeling about it? Because obviously if I worry about the future, that's called anxiety. And I don't want any more anxiety than I already have being a parent. I'm just trying to keep this tiny human alive.
That's for sure.
But yeah, we also reassessed just like our trips. We were planning on going out to Colorado still to do a podcast interview. And we were planning on going out maybe possibly to Arizona to visit my dad.
I mean, the trip was booked.
And we booked them and we were really excited because flights are so cheap right now. But we really had to sit down and have a conversation, which we did because we had that time and space to just, is it worth it? Is it smart to be on a plane at this time? Is there an alternative to having getaways that don't involve getting on a plane?
Right. Yeah, I mean, and we're really thinking more about along the lines of how it would affect our families. Like if we were to contract it and then come back, who would be affected by it? Obviously, we have, people in our family who, we would be very concerned about if and we wouldn't want to have to go 2 or 3 weeks without seeing them either, if we came back tested positive. So, we're just taking an abundance of caution with what we're doing. And, really, if we lose a year of not going on a flight somewhere, then, our health and safety is more important than us, going someplace where, these places aren't going anywhere. And obviously travel and stuff will get safer again, but we've got to get through this whole thing. And, right now it's been a little discouraging, even though we're opening up here in Maryland. There are states that have opened up earlier than ours and are starting to see spikes in the numbers. And, luckily we haven't seen a spike in deaths yet, but that usually lags behind. So I'm trying to still remain optimistic, but also just seeing that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done and a lot of things that need to be cleared before we can do anything. So it was good for us to sit down and actually, because we had talked about it a lot. We're like, do we do these trips or whatnot? And we've said it in passing, but never did anything really definitive or said anything definitive. But
because we have a toddler,
exactly. But we had that time to make that decision there.
Yes, and I heard a quote that completely shifted my mindset on not being as disappointed with canceling our flights, because I thrive when we're able to get on a plane and travel and visit new places and new people. And I think I told you this quote. It's things are happening for us, not to us. So this pandemic, this COVID, we can have this own little pity party and say, woe is me, this sucks, and say, this is happening to me. Or we can say, this experience is happening for me. And what am I going to do with it? What can I learn and how can we pivot and grow from it? So all we did was just change our travel plans and shifted to doing more local things. So we just booked an Airbnb getaway with just us two. That's not too far, but it gets Nick and I have a little alone time. Yeah. And I'm really excited because this was a place that we always wanted to visit, and now we get a chance to. And I'm not so sad that we're not flying on a plane anymore, because it's just reshifting our mind to focus on more local things. And I'm realizing all of the hidden gems that are in our at our grasp that we can go to, and we don't have to be so disappointed about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think, the whole thing was about minimizing risk, and we're minimizing that risk by not having to go on an airplane, by not having to rent a car. We'll continue to social distance at restaurants. If we go to them, we can always bring it back to where we're staying. We'll kind of see where the next month takes us. But, by the end of July, we're hoping to get a couple night getaway. So we'll keep you all posted on that too.
Yeah. And something else that happened that I kind of realized when we were at our date night, and this might have been after the fact, is that I think it was such a magical evening. I mean, don't get me wrong, our date nights are always magical.
That's right.
But scarcity always makes you appreciate it more. And the fact that we hadn't been out together alone for 3 to 4 months made that date night so much more special. And I was truly just super thrilled and excited the whole time, and just coming home. and just reflecting about it. And it kind of made me think, whereas before we would do date nights weekly
or bi-weekly. Yeah.
And I almost want to kind of maybe do it once a month to keep that scarcity going, because I find if we do it consistently but not as often, it doesn't feel like such an obligation, like, oh, we're doing date night again because that's what we do. Kind of like, I don't want it to be mindless, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like I appreciate the importance of alone time, but I think I cherish it that much more if maybe we do it once a month, if whenever we're able to.
Right.
Instead of bi-weekly. Just
I'm like ready to do it every night right now just because of the time we miss. But
I know,
yeah.
But I think that's another reason why it made it so special, is because we hadn't done it so long.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that feeling of not having it all the time, but making sure it is consistent and that we are getting that space and time. So it's just thoughts to think about, not like nothing definite, but that was kind of where I was going with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, the 4 months, 3 months that we haven't been on a date night is certainly a check to us. And, it really just makes you not take things for granted. And not that I was taking date nights for granted before, but just the fact that it was taken away from us for such a long period of time, and not of our own doing, but because of something that is out of our control. It really just kind of puts things into perspective, and, really, really just makes us appreciate the nights that we do have out, and that we, can go out on a date night. And, just kind of going back and just reflecting on that Friday night is, we had outdoor seating and the weather was just gorgeous. Like, we had some hot days around that date night.
The universe was listening to us, and
there was also a lot of thunderstorm activity, except for that night. So, I mean, everything just ended up perfect. We had a nice little breeze. We were in Baltimore City, and, it was just amazing food, great cocktails, good conversation. I mean, you couldn't have scripted it any better.
Well, I hope it wasn't scripted.
Well, I'm just saying, if this was a play or something, or a movie.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of everything that I had. And
yeah.
Oh, last thing is just that it was fun.
What?
Like, we got to just
It was business. It wasn't fun.
Like, just me and you, mano y mano. Lucille's a ton of fun, but to have that alone time, and I'm just going to say it again, the space and time. Like, we have these moments where we connect and say hi and kiss, kiss. You're looking hot. You're looking sexy. But to have 2 to 3...
another thing, dressing up.
2 to 3 hours of just me and you, it was just fantastic.
It was.
Yeah, we did get to dress up, didn't we?
Looking mighty sexy. Yeah.
It was the romper, right?
Oh, yeah. That's right. The romper.
Oh, God. Stop looking at me like that. You sound like a creeper.
I know. But yeah, no, just it was great just to rediscover the importance of date night, and looking forward to the next one with you, baby.
Yeah, so hopefully 30 days from now.
Yeah, 30 days from now.
Keep it monthly, maybe, if we're allowed
30
to.
days from now, we'll be going on our trip, so it works out perfectly.
Yes, it does. So true.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. So is there any resources you want to share with our listeners today?
I found a blog post that was called How Quality Time with Your Partner Improves Your Mental Health.
QT.
So just in case, I know everyone's probably has somewhat insane mindsets with just staying at home all the time. And so maybe this is a little boost to just help your mental health and just to do more with your partner.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
So they gave you, I think it was 4 tips on how to improve your mental health.
Just a tip.
Let me start out by saying this. It says, this is consistent with the findings from the longest longitudinal study on happiness conducted at Harvard University that showed that people who invest in their relationships live longer and happier lives. Bam.
That
I like the word
accurate.
invest. Date nights are definitely an investment.
They are.
Time with your partner. All right. So I don't want to list all the tips because some of them were kind of obvious to me, but I thought this one was hysterical. It said practice JOMO. Joy of missing out.
Joy. Okay.
It says, in order to say yes to more quality time with your partner, you may have to say no to some group activities. Even though you'll be missing out on some fun, think about all the joy you will gain by spending quality time with your partner. We call this feeling JOMO, or the joy of missing out. Over the 10 plus years my husband and I have been together, I've come to realize that investing in a relationship is an investment in my overall happiness. When our relationship feels solid, I feel solid. When our relationship feels rocky, I feel rocky. The two are intimately intertwined, and that's why I'll continue to prioritize quality time together.
I like JOMO. That's really cool. Like, thinking of it as not only just date night, but just time with Lucille and family too. Like, you may have an event with your kid and you're missing out on a party or something like that or whatever. But yeah, just enjoy the moment that you're with your partner or your family or whatever. I love that. That's a great way of looking at it. It changed my perspective. I tend to have FOMO.
I know this kind of made me think of our friends that recently just said like they really wanted a date night by themselves, but they did a double date instead. And she's kind of like, I really wish that we could just have a date to ourselves. So it's like you might have to put down, like, say no to some double date opportunities in order to make sure that you're prioritizing alone time with your spouse. And I like the whole turning it around to the joy of missing out. It makes you feel less guilty about like leaving people or saying no or declining.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, a lot of people are probably like, well, I've had 3 months with my spouse, but again, there's something about just going out and it's completely different. So yeah, let's just preach that. Like, it's different getting out by yourselves than it was just being in. Like, exactly. I'm the first one to say that. It felt totally different, which is just crazy. All we did was just leave our house together and do what we would normally do before this whole thing. There's actually a lot of things that are different. Yeah. But so I thought that one was kind of cool. Yeah. Let's hashtag JOMO when we go out. JOMO. All right. And what is that quote of the day there, Jilly?
The quote of the day is by Ryan Frederick. Reconnecting with your spouse doesn't have to be complicated, just purposeful.
That's not Avril Lavigne.
Oh, damn it.
Complicated.
Yeah, go. So complicated.
Yeah. That's an awesome quote. I like that. And what is our take action challenge for this week?
Your take action challenge is to just have purposeful alone time with your partner.
I dig it. I'm going to have some more purposeful alone time with you after this podcast.
Wishful thinking.
I'm kidding. It's late.
It's late. God, we sound like curmudgeons.
I know. All right, good stuff. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode. If you like this episode, if you can please do us a favor and help us spread the message, you can do this by writing a review or simply sharing this episode with a friend. And remember, sharing sparks a conversation, conversation leads to action, and action is how we're able to live a happy and intentional as hell lifestyle. We want to thank you all for listening today, and we will see you again next week.
See you later, guys.